Well, Canberra or Sydney, if it's T20 cricket, India have the better of Australia. They continue a winning streak in this format and take the T20I series 2-0 with one to go. On ESPN Cricket for Match Day, we look back at a rather thrilling, entertaining, dramatic game with Hardik Pandya finishing it off in style for India on along with Gautam Gambhir and Tom Moody. Let's look back at that thoroughly entertaining game, Tom. And if I have to ask you what was the difference, shall we just say it was some pretty good hitting by Hardik Pandya at the end?
Yeah, one bloke called Hardik Pandya, I think, is a pretty big difference. He's emerging to be one of the best finishers in the game. His ball striking is just unbelievable, and I can speak certainly for the feeling over here in Australia is that he's very quickly becoming a bit of a favourite over here. He has really turned it on during this white ball tournament and shown exactly what he's capable of doing.
There seems to be that sort of belief that comes with very few cricketers, Gautam, that if he's at the crease, he can win you the game. Even if he's missing a few, even if he consumes a few dots, if he hits a couple of boundaries, he could just win you the game. Hardik Pandya is becoming one of those players if he isn't already.
Well, exactly. Someone like Yuvraj Singh or MS Dhoni, when they were at the crease, the game was never over. It's exactly the same with Hardik Pandya as well, and he's shown it. He's showing it actually. He hasn't shown it, but he's showing it on this tour, especially in 50 overs and in T20 cricket. We know how destructive can he be in T20 cricket, but the way he batted in 50 overs as well. So it's great sign for Indian cricket, especially someone who can bat at number 6. Once he starts bowling, it'll be a great luxury to have.
Could Australia have bowled any differently to him, Tom? One of the ODIs, I remember them bowling that wide outside offline and keeping Pandya quiet. They seem to be going for that same plan, and it worked on occasion. There were a few streaky boundaries in the other. Could Australia have bowled any better to him?
Yeah, look, absolutely. I feel that still, I know it's the hardest ball to bowl, but Yorker is the ball that needs, when you've got a player like Hardik Pandya, you've got to get underneath his bat. If you're not getting underneath his bat, he's going to hit it for 6 or 4. It's a bit like Corin Pollard from West Indies, a bit like MS Dhoni. Players like that tend to try to hit you in front of square, and they're looking to hit you for 4 or 6 in front of square. So if you can get underneath their bat, you're then, challenging them to hit those boundaries. They're not players that tend to go for the ramp shots or the reverse ramps because they've got such awesome power down the ground. So I think Australia failed to really execute their Yorkers. There's one guy that we've talked about regularly over the last couple of weeks that seems to have got an exclusive right on the Yorker, and that's Natarajan.
Gautam, thoughts on Australia's bowling? Yes, it's a severely depleted bowling attack with some main guys missing. And they had other options too. They would have liked to bowl more of Henry. Sean Abbott just got a couple of overs. Did they get a few things wrong, Australia?
See, I don't think so. If you see, Andrew Tye is a very experienced T20 bowler. Apart from Andrew Tye, you can understand, yes, Daniel Sam hasn't bowled or played at this level. Sean Abbott is new. Moses Hendricks, obviously, it's difficult because he bowled really well in the first game, but a little disappointed with Andrew Tye because you expect him to be a much better T20 bowler. Look at what Natarajan did. He just probably kept bowling in the block hole, and that is what we kept talking about, that it is not important to be the most skillful bowler. It's just important to execute one skill which that you can perfectly. And Andrew Tye has been playing all for a very long time. Still, obviously, hasn't finished the art of pulling those Yorkers. And what Tom just mentioned, that yes, you have to keep going back to that full bowler Yorker, especially to Hardik Pandya, if you keep bowling that length. And the second last over, he did bowl a couple of deliveries really well, but the last 3 deliveries probably were not the best deliveries to be bowling at. And suddenly, when you require 2 overs 25, and suddenly after 2 overs 30, and suddenly you require 2 overs last over 15, it's a completely different ball game. So Andrew Tye should have actually bowled a better 19th over because he's a very experienced bowler. Probably he was leading the attack today. So a little disappointed on that front, especially from Andrew Tye. You don't expect Daniel Sams because he's just making his debut. It's always difficult to defend 15 against Hardik Pandya in the last over. But yes, Andrew Tye could have done something different.
Yes, Tom.
If I could just add something, what tonight really highlights to me is how it's so important from a bowling perspective that you continue to evolve, you continue to provide variety, even though it might be the most subtlest variety, and that is with your slower balls, with the lines that you bowl, with the use of the crease, the different angles you deliver the ball. And I'm not just talking from over the wicket or around the wicket, I'm talking wide of the crease, tight in the crease. All those subtle differences gives you a point of difference before the ball is released. And I think what we've seen today is the slower ball, which is the cutter, was the most effective ball on that surface. Australia bowled a lot of knuckle balls, but didn't bowl a lot of cutters. So it may be because, the likes of Andrew Tye is more comfortable bowling a knuckle ball and hasn't really developed and mastered the skill of the cutters, whether it be a leg cutter or an off cutter. To me, in the modern game, if you haven't got 3 or 4 different varieties of change of pace, you haven't evolved. You're not moving quick enough with the game, and therefore you get exposed. These players see so much footage and come across each other's paths in various franchise tournaments around the world, mainly obviously the IPL. So they know exactly what you've got on offer. So you keep on evolving. So you've got that point of difference on their opponent.
Right. Let's talk about India's batting effort. And Gautam, this was perhaps a nice template on how India ought to chase a score near 200. They started well, 16 the power play. There didn't seem like much of a period where things slowed down. Everyone made sure the net run rate didn't quite go up. And even Shreyas Iyer, his little cameo towards the end, they used their resources well, which sometimes we've seen teams in T20 be guilty of not doing.
See, it's not important actually to get a very big score if you're chasing 195, but if you can score at a reasonably high strike rate, you can actually chase down 195 as well. Yes, you expect people like Shikhar Dhawan and KL Rahul to be more explosive because they've got to use the first 6 overs, but I'm going to give it to Virat Kohli because he actually came in the 6th or probably the 7th over. The strike rate which he batted at, especially after the 6 overs, was very, very crucial. You expect Hardik Pandya to play the way he did. Sanju Samson is a new guy. He still batted at a reasonably high rate, though he didn't get too many. Shreyas Iyer. So it's not important that when you're chasing 195, someone needs to get to a 80 or a 90. But if you keep contributing the way the Indian team did today with a higher strike rate, you can actually manage to score or chase those big totals as well. And I know probably you will talk about Hardik Pandya, you will talk about Shikhar Dhawan, but Virat Kohli's knock was very, very important, especially at the strike rate which he batted at after the 6th over.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It goes at 166, 42 of 24, Tom. And I guess one ball can tell you a reflection of what Kohli was thinking. That's that 4th ball of the 15th over. I don't know if I've ever seen Kohli go down and scoop one for 6. He tends to have this conversation of always getting runs the conventional way, the beautiful way. This was to perfection too, but tells you something perhaps about Kohli knowing the importance of scoring quickly.
He's also watched someone do that pretty well over the years at RCB and beat de Villiers. So, it's no surprise. He actually played it technically perfectly. He played it really, really well. The interesting thing about Virat Kohli's innings was that at one point he was about 11 runs off 10 balls. So he started quite slowly, really, in T20 terms. So his back end of that innings really accelerated. He nearly went at 3 runs a ball. So he caught up the time and really got the middle of the innings, running away and gave them the momentum they needed in that back 10 overs. So he kept his calm, kept his cool, but he showed also that that he's still got all the shots in the bag if he wants to pull them out.
And Ranav, just want to add one more thing. What Tom spoke about, you got to evolve as a player. And when you talk about that scoop, you don't expect Virat Kohli to do that, but he wants to evolve in T20 cricket, despite of whatever he's done in white ball cricket. He's done what no other cricketer has done, but still he wants to.
Yeah, we're just going to try and reconnect to Gautam, and we'll just carry that point forward till we do with Tom. It's a good point he makes. Even if you are Virat Kohli, even if you're one of the best white ball players of your generation, there can still be an improvement. There can still be an evolution, isn't there, Tom?
All players, whether you're batsmen or bowlers or in the fielding part of the game, you look at the benchmarks in world cricket. You look at who does it the best, and you then try to continue to develop and improve on your own game. And I totally get that you don't want to copy and play like someone else, but you need to add little bows to your string just so that you are continuing to grow. The Australians in their pre-game discussion or pre-series discussion would have talked about Kohli and would have eliminated the idea that he's going to play the ramp shot. So they would have been comfortable having fine leg up in the circle, knowing that he's not going to play that shot. But again, through him evolving as a player, he, then got the upper hand on Australia because he pulled it out of the bag, and it was a very important 6 at that point.
Yeah, let me go back to Gautam. So we've got you connected back. Now, yes, Gautam, go back to your point on Kohli evolving as a batsman. As good as he is and how much ever he has achieved, doesn't stop even the greatest player from evolving his game. Gautam, do you have me? Can you hear me loud and clear?
Sorry, yeah, Ronak. Can you come again?
Yeah, all right, brilliant. You can go back to that point, Gautam. We're just continuing the discussion of Kohli clearly showing some evolvement in his game. You can be the best player of your generation. Doesn't stop you from evolving your game to get better.
Oh, 100%, and especially in a T20 format, because you know that the bowlers are getting smarter as well after every game, after every series. So you got to have different shots in your armory as well, because with so much of knowing against each other what the batsman's strengths and weaknesses are. If you don't evolve yourself, you will not be able to play at a higher strike rate. Look at what Virat Kohli did today. He'll, 11 of 10 deliveries or whatever the other way around, and then he managed to get what 40 odd of 20 odd deliveries, and it's all about being more innovative. And that's why we keep talking about, if you don't evolve yourself quickly, you might struggle to be in the playing 11 when you especially want to play for your country. Yes, you will always be there and thereabout, but to be a consistent player, you got to be better after each and every game.
All right, let's talk about the other contributor, and that Shikhar Dhawan continues to have an impressive run of form after the IPL in the ODIs. There's a lot of chat, Tom, on whether he makes the ideal T20I 11 for India when everybody is fit. He's done his chances no harm. That was a pretty decent half century.
Look, he brings a lot to the table. One thing that Shikhar Dhawan does do is he takes his opportunity when they present, and he has. I always feel that he's constantly faced headwinds as a player, whether it be in the IPL, whether it be for playing for India, but he's always seemed to be able to answer, those critics. Again, I thought his innings today was a vital one. He picked up the tempo once KL Rahul got out, so it was a good opening partnership from both of them, just over 50 together. And then he continued to, pick up that momentum. So he left off. He didn't sort of fall in a hole after he lost his opening partner. Again, he offers a left-hand option at the top of the order, which I think is a real bonus as well, because it makes it difficult for the opposition to line you up with certain matchups. He doesn't tend to let you down in the field. He holds down key fielding positions, so he has to be in the conversation.
That criticism is often in formats other than ODI cricket, you'd think, Gautam, for Shikhar Dhawan, but he wants to be part of this T20I side. We saw a different version of Shikhar Dhawan in this IPL, at least in the second half of the IPL. India now have a problem of plenty. If they have a Dhawan firing at the top, they have Rahul, and they have Rohit Sharma due to come in at some point.
See, you would not be discussing about Shikhar Dhawan because you've got Rohit Sharma and KL Rahul. That's the reason we keep discussing whether he should be part of the ideal playing 11. But if you have Shikhar Dhawan in any other side, and if you don't have players like Rohit Sharma and KL Rahul, you would not be discussing about him, because he's done so much in white ball cricket. Yes, there would always be a debate, because once Rohit Sharma comes back in, whether you would still open with KL Rahul and Rohit Sharma and would not have Shikhar Dhawan. But it's got to be tough, because if he keeps scoring like this at this strike rate, because there was always question mark on his strike, whether you want someone more explosive at the top of the order, whether KL Rahul is best suited to be batting at the top of the order, not in the middle order, especially in T20 format, because Shikhar, Rohit, and KL, all the three would want to open the batting. That's where they're most dangerous at. So it's got to be a problem of plenty. But yes, had there not been Rohit Sharma or KL Rahul, Shikhar Dhawan would have been very, very pretty much safe, especially in that opening position. But again, what he can do is he can keep scoring runs at a higher strike rate and help India keep winning games. That's what his job is, and that is what he can control. And I'm sure he would be thinking on that front as well, rather than thinking that once Rohit Sharma comes back in, whether I'm going to be part of the playing 11 or not. That is not in his control. You can only control things what you can control, and he's controlling it really, really well.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of places for fights for India's batsmen in particular. And while we just wrap up the conversation on India's batting, it was a short innings, but it makes for an interesting conversation, which I'd love to hear your views on. The 10 ball 15 from Sanju Samson. Now, on the one hand, you're going to look at Samson and think, so much talent, hits a couple of boundaries, why can't he go on and deeper? On the other, you think, here's one of the few batsmen who actually takes the game on from ball one. India need more of those if you look at how modern day T20 is played. Now, where do you all stand on Samson? I know it's a small innings, but it just makes for an intriguing conversation. Gautam, is Samson the kind of player that you'd like to have, even if he comes in 4-5, hits a couple of boundaries and gets out early with the kind of intent that he shows, or can he improve and evolve into a bigger and better player with what's at stake?
See, I'll tell you one thing, Ronald. Sometimes you
Hmm.
look at a player and you look at a player just by one shot and you say, just wow.
Yeah.
He can actually rule world cricket. And that one shot of Daniel Sams, I know Daniel
Yeah.
Sams is not the most experienced bowler. That pull shot, which he was able to hit it for what, 97 meters. That is the kind of talent Rohit Sharma had when he came on the scene. Some of the shots which he played, people would say, man, he's got talent. And
Hmm.
if given the right platform, if persisted with him, he's going to be a player who can probably rule international cricket, and that is what he did. Yes, Samsung will learn, but sometimes you got to go with talent in the sheer class. He could have actually what? He could have the situation which he came in. Virat Kohli was batting at the other end. He could have just batted, run a ball, and when he was 15 of 10 balls, he could have continued batting at that strike rate. That would have put even more pressure on someone like Virat Kohli. So
Yeah.
sometimes you see a player and see his talent and say that probably going forward, if he's around the group, if we can keep giving him opportunities wherever we can, he's going to become a world beater. And see Rohit Sharma, where Rohit Sharma is now and where Rohit Sharma was when he actually bursted on the international scene. Loads and loads of talent, persisted with him, gave him opportunities, stayed with him, and see what he's done. So there are people like Sanju Samson. You got to see their real talent. And sometimes you can see the talent with just one or two shots and say, yes, man, this guy's got talent. And there are times when you see a player, he gets 100 and you say that whether he's going to struggle, whether he's going to be a world beater or not. But that is what international sport and that is what sports is all about. So when I saw that shot of Sanju Samson, I said that he's got probably the same kind of talent what Rohit Sharma had when he bursted on the international scene. Can he do what Rohit Sharma is doing in international cricket? You have to wait and watch.
Yeah, that's the kind of shot that excites all of us, isn't it, Tom? And then you wonder sometimes if even Samson gets carried away by it, plays one shot too many, and then finds himself back. What's your take on it? Just give him a run, and he will come good at some point.
Yeah, it's a fine line. You know, when you're playing that type of game, it's a very fine line between success and failure. And I think that the management and the fans need to respect and be patient with players like that because they are rare and they have got that special talent. We talked about Pant early on about his same situation. I put him in that same category. I think he is an exceptional talent. That given the right guidance and patience will turn into a superstar. But the problem India have is that you've only got a coach that can take, and that I'm talking about a bus that can take so many talented players. Unless they get a double-decker bus to every game, you're not going to be able to fit all the talent in because there's so many talented players. You know, that India have. So it's a very difficult task for the selectors and the management to work out, one, how they're going to transition from the older players to the new generation, and secondly, how they're going to keep those young players pushing to try to secure those permanent positions. And once they do look like they're ready, persisting with them and giving them a good run, because it's very difficult for any player to develop in the international game without a given fair opportunity to be able to understand it and work it out so they can become that consistent player.
Ronak, just one thing I want to add. The only silver lining here with Sanju Samson and Rishabh Pant is that they are young. So you can actually invest in them. It's going to be hard for people like Manish Pandey, who's crossed 30, whether you want to invest in them, whether he's got to be your long-term future taking this Indian cricket forward. But yes, with people like Rishabh Pant, Sanju Samson, Shreyas Iyer, all these guys are into their whatever mid-20s or early 20s. So you can actually invest in them. I'm not saying you got to play these guys game after game, but around the group you see the talent and see again. I keep going back to Rohit Sharma. Had MS Dhoni not persisted with Rohit Sharma, probably he's had some horrible series or miserable series as well. But Rohit MS persisted with him because he knew that this is the guy who's going to take Indian cricket forward. It's exactly the same with people like Shreyas Iyer, Sanju Samson, Rishabh Pant, all these guys. They're not around 30, 31, 32, where you feel that, oh, is this the time to still keep investing in them? Or whether we have someone who's young with a similar kind of talent. Yes, these guys have got talent. They've got age on their side. Yes, so that's a silver lining, especially when it comes to these younger players. And it's going to get harder for Manish Pandey. The lesser he plays, the lesser and the more people like Sanju Samson, Shreyas Iyer, all these guys will play. And if they start delivering, it gets really hard. And that is how international sport. And you will feel sorry for someone like Manish Pandey who's not been given a longer run because he's got immense talent as well. But then that is what you can do. You can only pick 15, especially in the bus, and only 11 in the playing 11.
Yeah. I get the feeling that no matter who gets picked, it's going to trigger a debate regardless, right? They can't possibly pick a team that'll make everybody happy, and who knows where that'll take us going forward. But it makes for a great time, and at least T20 cricket for India. They've got this rich depth of reserves, and who's to say that any of these guys could out a few experienced counterparts as T20 World Cups come our way in the next 2 years. Big thank you to Tom Moody and Gautam Gambhir. More from them as we go to the third T20. It'll be very interesting to see what kind of team India shape up now that this series is won. There's another tour game also coming up. It's a pink ball game, that one. So you'd think some of the key bowlers at least would be relieved and get ready for that. There is the 3-day tour game already underway in Sydney, which started today. And of course, highlights from the T20I series and for the rest of the tour down under as well will be available on ESPN Cricinfo. So make sure you catch that if you're watching us in the Indian subcontinent. We'll be back with build up to the third T20I. So do join us then on ESPN Cricinfo Match Day.